Welcome to Intelligent Human Leadership, leading yourself and your team. Do you ever find yourself grappling with a lack of confidence in your team? Or battling the relentless waves of concern and fear? Are the pressures to meet client expectations and the burden of missed opportunities weighing you down? On this podcast, you'll discover the strategies and insights that will reignite your team's morale and help you find the harmony and knowledge you seek to propel your business forward. Here, we explore innovative ways to reignite your creative spirit and achieve greatness, empowering you to lead with intelligence, compassion, and resilience. If you're ready to dive deep into your core of leadership challenges and be guided toward success, here's your host, founder of Steward Your Business, David Carr.
Welcome back. So glad to have you here. David Carr of the Intelligent Human Leadership Podcast with you today. I'm super excited to continue this discovery and knowing that you can learn more about yourself to be more effective in your business and your marriage in all aspects of your life. So we want to empower you here to be the most intelligent human leader. You hear about artificial intelligence, you hear about all that AI, ChatGPT, awesome stuff. But ultimately, human beings cannot be replaced. That's a cognitive thing. We're talking about relationships here. How to be intelligently, relationally competent. Not just competent, excellent. And so I'm picking up where we left off on our last episode about being a help or a hindrance. So if you missed that episode, I want you to go back and listen to this because we're going to be talking about the next step in that evolution in how do we become, and not just become, be aware of our leadership voice. What is our leadership voice? Can we give words to it? Can we articulate what that is? I find that there's lots of different things out there. There's different assessments and tools, and I've used a lot of different ones. Colbier, DISC, Strength Finders, and one that I found this year that I feel it's just been revolutionary is called the 5 Voices through a company called Giant that I'm a guide with. And so I've used this tool with all of my clients. It's been tremendous. And I'll be talking more about that this episode. But before we get into that specific tool and resource, which has been great help for me and clients, I want you to just come back to this problem that we've talked about at the last episode of, are we being a hindrance? And here it is do you understand your leadership voice? Do you understand how you show up with yourself, your team, as a leader? Because we're all leaders. Everyone speaks. Not every voice is heard. Everyone has this leadership voice, whether you realize it or not. From the most quietest to the most gregarious, people-oriented, over the top. The problem is most people don't understand their leadership voice or how to use it, and then we end up being a hindrance more than a help. We undermine our capability, or not capability, but our influence is reduced, and so what we're actually capable of doing and able to accomplish is we're diminished in that sense because we're not able to get the people involved. They're not trusting us, they're not relying on us because they don't see us showing up as a trustworthy leader. And so, what's really important is that you have to become aware and understand this. Backwards and forwards, inside and out, and this is a journey. This is not a destination. Okay, it's important you realize that it's like peeling back an onion. It's not a one and a done thing, because as you know more about yourself, you're ultimately going to come in contact with many different people, many different life circumstances, which is a good thing, but it's not set it and forget it kind of thought. It's not like, oh, I got that, I'm done. It's just not that way. I wish it was, but we continually need to evolve, continue to go through transformation. It's vital to us becoming the most relevant and potent leader that we can be. It truly is. And when you stop doing that, when you let your foot off the gas, I'm telling you, especially when you're super on fire, like a high performance machine, it's easy to go off into the ditch if you're not careful. And unfortunately, you can do serious damage to yourself and to others. So I want you to think about this today as we're going through this about your leadership voice. Are you clear on it? Can you articulate it well? And could others clearly identify it and understand how that is a help or a hindrance to them? So this is important, because if we're not doing this, I'm going to kind of reiterate this because I think it's so important. My focus and passion is teams engagement, collaboration. I'm a connector. That's my leadership voice. I bring resources together. I empower. That's what I love doing. That's where my strength and my leadership voice really shines, is in the people world, and connecting those. However, if you don't do that and you have ineffective communication, in your mind, you're thinking, this makes total sense. However, it will make your team ineffective because your communication will break down. You'll have misunderstandings. You'll have conflicts. How many times have you got an email? You wrote it. You're like, it's clear as day. It makes total sense. Or you used Asana or some other tasking tool. You wrote out the instructions and somebody didn't understand it. They didn't apply it the way that you thought it should have been applied. And it seemed like it was black and white. It made perfect sense to you. Well, they interpreted it differently. They applied it differently. And there's different reasons for that. But I want you just to recognize that this is a challenge. As a leader, we can easily get misaligned. And therefore, if we're not paying attention, we're misaligned, right? We're going to be ineffective in our management, ineffective in our decision making, and we're not going to make the progress that we truly want to make here. In the really bad situations, we actually get into poor conflict resolution, where now each voice is different and that handles this. Each voice and the way they respond. And I'm sure you've seen this. You can go two ways. Here's a nurturer, somebody that's very caring and considerate and kind and looks harmony. They'll be quiet. They'll shut down. They won't say much to you if you're a loud voice or if you're a powerful voice. Now, if you get somebody that's a powerful voice, they're going to raise with you. They're going to get louder. So it's going to escalate at times because they want to be right so much. So if you don't know these nuances, it's really going to affect your environment. And if you're not paying attention, money certainly is a positive thing that people are motivated for work. Don't get me wrong. But environment is one of the huge ones. If they don't feel positive in the environment, whether you're in person, remote, doesn't matter. If they're not feeling comfortable in that environment, they will leave. In an organization that's very expensive to have individuals coming in and out of the company, or disengaging with you after you've spent time training them, getting involved. So it's really important that we're paying attention to these things. We don't want to be a hindrance. We do not want to escalate the problems instead of resolving them. The productivity obviously will go down because of your leadership style. How it shows up can negatively impact the team's around productivity. We talked about this in the last episode. Look at that. Look at your numbers, because that's an indication of, is my leadership style being effective or not? Are you able to retain people? Or people will just, yes, this is an awesome company. I love being here. I feel like this is a home. I feel like a family in a good way. And if we're not doing that, what we might see here also is our team is seeing inconsistencies, because you might get it a little bit because you start to understand, but then you're not in other times. And when you have this inconsistency, unpredictable way of leading, it's very off-putting. And people don't know what to trust, what to believe, what to think, because they don't know how you're going to show up consistently. It's super important that they can consistently know how you're going to show up in a good way. In a bad way, you can show up consistently bad too, in a way that's not helping. But that is not going to strengthen the organization, strengthen your family, because you lead in your family as well, right? So this starts with leading and understanding yourself and knowing, and this is where, there's this idea of self-management and personal growth comes from. I recognized many years ago, I was working with a company, great company called eCore Consulting. And I had started and came in there, and as a senior biologist, I'd managed some projects before. And then I had this humongous project that came in. It was a multi-million-dollar project. I was working for Southern California Edison at the time. And I realized, man, if I don't start to get a handle on me leading myself, why would anyone else follow me? Why would anyone else want to work with me? It started with understanding management and leadership, and there's a whole nother discussion there because they're not the same thing. That's what we talk about: intelligent human leadership, intelligent human management. That's a different tool and different skill set. It's very important, but just different. And so I realized I had to become a better leader of myself if I was going to have other people follow me, and started this discovery. And this is like over 10 years ago, over a decade ago. I've gone through this journey of discovery and helping myself, and now applying this and bringing it to you through Steward Your Business, working with both businesses and individuals, because that's my passion, is making sure that you're empowered and you understand who you truly are, what your voice is, and to be able to articulate that to others in a liberating way. And so, again, if we're not clear on this, our leadership voice is hindered. Our personal development is hindered. Ultimately, this is where I feel like, our confidence gets eroded. And when we don't have confidence, when we're uncertain, we're not clear, it's fuzzy, we cannot then effectively make decisions or be in an assertive way. Because assertiveness comes from a positive, proactive way of being. And that's because you truly know who you are and you come from a place of confidence, not ego, not I'm the best. It's purely because I serve, I'm helping, and I know that about myself. If you don't have that, your stress, your anxiety goes up. We talked about this a couple episodes ago in episode check back on that. And we talked about stress and burnout and what happens when you're not dealing with those things in an effective way. And then you're feeling stressed internally, and then whether you say that externally, people feel it. People can feel the stress. People can feel the uncertainty. They can feel the hesitancy. Have you guys ever walked like a dog or something? Or if a dog or a horse, if you've ridden a horse, if they feel hesitancy, if they feel they can sense it. You don't have to tell them in words. They can literally feel it in your body that you have a hesitancy or you're stressed, you're on edge. And so that's not a good place to be. Anybody that's been around that you're going to get hurt, or the animal is going to get hurt because they're going to do something foolish because they're going to try to take advantage or run with the situation. So I really want you to think about that. And if you don't understand this, if you're not clear on where your strengths are and where you're not strong, and you're trying to play that part, I would call it you're presenting a certain behavior. It's not who you truly are, your best behavior in the way that you really show up in your strongest way, but you're trying to play this role, and it doesn't really serve you that well. And then it erodes your credibility ultimately with others. And then you're starting to focus on some of these strengths in other areas where you'd be much better off going in the direction of where you're naturally strong, and understanding that, and then getting other people surrounding you on your team that can fill other voices. And this takes time. This is not a one and done thing. I work with businesses. We spend months and even years together because we're continuing evolving and building this team and collaborating, or rubbing, kind of smoothing the edges, if you will, to make this a well-oiled machine. When it's there, it's amazing. But when it's not there, it's terrible. It's very painful. It's frustrating. And so, on the worst case scenario here is if you're not clear on this, truly who you are, what I call your human life value, your identity is lost here. You may try to get your identity somewhere else where it's really not. It shouldn't be looking at that, especially when we're looking externally. And that causes a lot of problems because other people then are it's like a ripple effect in your organizational. And then you start to make possibly, poor moral choices, ethical choices, because you're not clear here. You have misaligned goals or visions because, again, you're not clear on how to get there, what you need to do. You allow others to influence you in a negative way here because you think that's what it should be looking like. You're looking at other companies, you're looking at other people, and you're thinking, well, that voice works. I think people will say, we had a president of the United States, Donald Trump. He had a leadership style and a voice, which many of you know. I don't think it works really well personally. It has worked in certain areas of his life, but I don't think it works in other ways. And you have other people that aren't effective either. It doesn't really matter to left, right, or center. It doesn't matter politically. If you don't know your leadership voice and you don't know how to use it in an effective manner, that can be very detrimental. In today's age, if you're not authentic and transparent and really clear, people don't trust you. They just don't. This is critical in today's age with social media, with AI. We talk about intelligent human leadership. AI can be used in, is this real or not? We need to get you to be as real, raw, relevant, and being able to speak to that, to the fruit of your life and understanding, how did I get to this fruit? How did I get to this result? Is it showing up in my marriage, in my work, with my coworkers, my children, and in all these relationships? You own it. I want to encourage you. You own it all. And when you own it all, then you can actually make some positive changes here. But if you're not paying attention to this, you're going to have some long-term impacts to your family, to your company, because you're not leading in an authentic way. You're leading because you think, hey, well, this is the way I believe I should be because this person did it this way. They talked this way. It seemed to work. And there may be elements that could be applied to your life, but you have to be, your leadership voice here. It's really vital that you understand this. It's crucial. If you can't harness your strengths, identify what I call your weaknesses or these challenging areas, and where you're choosing to act in that voice versus naturally showing up, it makes so much of a difference in your energy, your focus, the results for your life. And so I want you to think about this because you want to get to the place where you have more cohesive teams, better decision making, a more fulfilling leadership journey. And so I want you to be curious and start to ask yourself some of these questions and recognizing that nobody fits in just one box. There's definitely nature, nurture, and choice of all a part of our leadership voices. And I'm going to share a link here in the show notes with you where you can take a free assessment. That's no cost to you. Just you can go and find out through the 5 Voices assessment, what's your primary voice? I go through a whole assessment with folks where we go through a deep dive individually and then with teams. If you're more interested in that, happy to talk with you more about it. But I want you to give a free resource here where you can go in there and find what is my primary leadership voice. In the Giant framework, there's 5 voices. And so it makes it very easy to understand, articulate. And like I said, I'm a connector. That's my primary voice. You may show up in different ways. But it's when you have a shared language and understanding, it's liberating. It's if you ever go to another country and you don't know the language and you're trying to communicate, hard. Now you can do certain things, but you're not very effective. When you start to have shared language and understanding, it starts to strip away misunderstandings and challenges. We can communicate more effectively. We can actually create a more holistic culture and be more productive and engaged. Again, that's why I'm so passionate about this. But if you're not clear on that, you will be misaligned. Like I told you earlier, you won't be able to effectively delegate. That's one I noticed a lot is if you're not clear on how you process and work through information, and then how others that you're going to be working with identify how they are. That's what a good leader does. A good leader is really good at asking questions and being curious, not dictating and demanding and pushing things. There's certainly when you have to make decisions, but a good leader is asking questions and being gaining understanding. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should be doing a lot of listening to understand the team dynamics. And when we can listen, when we understand who we are, that's a filter. We're like, okay, I know I'm a people person. That's David. I love to connect with others. That's how I am. I'm not so much what I call a nurturer, where I do care for people. I'm not always there present for their emotional felt needs. I'm more there as a resources, like I'll get you what you need. I can find this, that, and the other thing. And so if I know that about myself, it makes all the difference when I'm working with a different individual. And so I want you to really think about that so you can actually make better decisions, effectively delegate, much better communication. So oftentimes, if we're not aware of these things, we lack a maturity and understanding on how to communicate with one another. And so we start to take things the wrong way. We get offended easily. We get put off. We get frustrated because we believe this other person that's communicating us is doing it in a way that we actually might be a positive thing from their perspective. So we have to just work through this. And there's a great story that was shared with me with another guy over this earlier this year. I was at this annual gathering with Giant, and she shared this story with me, and I love to relay this story of growing up with her brother. And so she was a connector like myself. We just love different people. We're always being creative and coming up with different ideas and innovative on things. And there's a voice in the 5 voices called a guardian voice, which is very much more about systems and processes and due diligence and just, they're your gatekeepers. They do such a great job at that. They're your accountants. They're your lawyers. They're your insurance agents. These people that are making sure that you're protected and watching out for you. So the story that she shared, it just was so meaningful to me because she shared the story of her brother, and they must have been in their early 20s at the time, was in her mind very critical, and she felt like she really just had this conversation with him. Do you just don't really like me? You're just always nitpicking at me. You're always pulling at things. You're always kind of throwing a wet blanket on me, if you will, cold water. And he said, no, not at all. He's like, you know what? I see you like flying high. You're going up. You're creating this amazing vision. You're flying the plane. Sometimes we say we're building the plane as we're going. Yeah, this is kind of connectors. We're just kind of being innovative. We're pulling these things together. And he said, I just want you to be able to land the plane. That's how he showed love. That's how he showed appreciation for her. He actually admired her, but when he was asking these questions, what about this? What about that? How did you think about this? That was how he was showing care and making sure that she was able to land the plane. So I use this illustration, this story, because if you understand that, you can appreciate that, you can look at that and not take it the wrong way. And then you can then be that intelligent human leader. And so I love this idea of knowing our voice, knowing who we are to lead ourselves and to lead others in our teams and our families. And so you're going to hear this coming back up, but I want to encourage you as we're wrapping up this episode, take the free assessment, reach out to me when you have that. I'd love to hear what your voice is, because it just multiplies from there. It's knowing who you are, then knowing within your organization, and how those interact and those dynamics. It's just fascinating, and I love seeing that come around and seeing the success of teams once we start to dive in and work on that together. So take the assessment, check it out, let me know what you think. I want you to just empower you to be that intelligent human leader, so that you can really lead effectively, harnessing all of your strengths and knowing them without a shadow of a doubt as you're applying them through all life circumstances, and that you are in a better off situation, and those around you will be so much better off in the long run. So I appreciate your time coming back and listening. We're going to be covering so many more great episodes here, talking about how you can show up, knowing yourself, leading yourself. I'm grateful for you, grateful for you to be on this journey. I encourage you to take this, share this with others. I love your review. Good, bad, or ugly, feedback. We talked about feedback is so important. So if you would take some time to drop a review on whatever podcast service you're listening through, that would be much appreciated. And it's my joy, my honor to be able to serve you, to bring this to you. I look forward to connecting with you further in the next episode. So until then, take on the day, carpe diem. I look forward to having you back. This is David Carr of the Intelligent Human Leadership Podcast. Till next time, take care out there. Bye.